Hello, and welcome back to yet another mock draft video. Today, this is, what is it, part seven, I think. But listen, man, the key from this point moving forward is that the draft order is set, at least for like the top 20, which I mean, that's what everybody really cares about, anyways, right? Nobody cares about, who's going to have the 29th pick. So yeah, man, it's exciting. And this is kind of officially when draft season starts. I mean, a lot of teams are. I mean, if you're not still in the playoffs, you're looking towards the draft, right? So, the feelings in the air. I'll say that much. So, let's get right into it, man. Thank you for watching. Hope y'all having a magnificent day. All right. So we now. So have things changed? It's like, I don't know if the Titans had the first overall pick. I don't think so. I think this is the first draft that I've done where the Titans have had the number one pick. Luckily for them, since Will Levis is so garbage, they have lost consistently down the stretch, and now they are in the position to pick their QB of the future. Listen, I'll go back. This is the part I hate. It's like they've probably already made their decision, and if they haven't, they'll probably make it pretty soon. Like, but there's going to be a thousand reports talking about, right now they're liking Cam Ward more than Shadur, or vice versa. So I saw some reports saying that they like Cam Ward more. So, like I said, it'll go back and forth. Who knows who they take? But it'll probably be a question down to the very, draft night. So I'm gonna go with Cam Ward in this particular installation. Next up, we got the Cleveland Browns. If you had not heard, Deshaun Watson suffered a setback in his Achilles rehab. Apparently, he ruptured the same Achilles again, so he's done. Yeah, I really do not think he's playing next season. Even if he did make a successful recovery, I don't think he'd play next season. So Deshaun Watson's career is pretty much over. The Browns are looking for quarterback help desperately, and Shadur's right there. I saw some report talking about Dion's going to block Shadur going. I think that's more so just a scare tactic to try and make the team not draft him. But bro, if the Browns draft Shadur, you really think he's gonna be like, I'm not really feeling it. He's gonna go wherever he gets drafted. So the Browns take Shadur number two overall. Giants at three. You're fucked. You there are no quarterbacks on the board. And this is a tough situation because what do you do here if you're the Giants? It doesn't really make sense to trade down. I wouldn't mind, like a Will Campbell selection right here. But in my opinion, if you're the Giants, just go best player available and then try and get a quarterback through free agency, like Sam Darnold, JJ McCarthy, Justin Fields, Kirk Cousins, Derek Carr, maybe. There's a lot of options out there. So give me Travis Hunter. And then the combo of Travis Hunter, Malik Neighbors would be very, very interesting. And next up, Patriots. I mean, I've flip flopped on this. I really I could see them taking McMillan right here just to give Drake May a solidified number one receiver. But they got Kayshon Boutte who broke out. They got Demario Douglas who's looked really good. They already got Hunter Henry, and I don't think you'd want to give up on Jalen Polk or you still got Javon Baker. So they have a lot of young receivers. I don't really think they need to add another one to the mix at this point. So give me the best offensive lineman in the draft to help protect Drake May. That is Will Campbell. Jaguars at five here. It's tough. The Jaguars are a team where I could honestly see them going half a dozen different ways. Mason Graham or Will Johnson here is going to be like what I'm thinking mostly. But they already got Eric Armstead, Josh Allen and Travon Walker on the defensive line. Give me Will Johnson, pair him next to Tyson Campbell, and try and get back to a really good Jacksonville defense. The Raiders at six, man, the Raiders really fumbled this draft like heavy, man. They are out of play for the quarterback, but maybe they could draft one at the top of the second round, or go get a guy via free agency, try and get Derek Carr back in town. That wouldn't be a bad idea, honestly. But give me, I mean, they need a running back, right? I mean, they have the worst group of running backs in the league, and Ashton Jeanty sitting right there. I absolutely believe he'll be a top 10 pick, and him going at number six, that would be the highest. It's higher than Bijan. I believe that'd be the highest since Saquon, if I'm not mistaken. He deserves it, honestly. The Jets at seven here. Listen, I think they have to make a move at quarterback. I don't think Aaron Rodgers will be back next year. The question is who. I'm gonna go on the assumption for this draft that Jalen Milroe falls out of the first round because I think that's very possible. I mean, I feel like there are some people that probably have Jalen Milroe as their number one quarterback, and there are some people who would not even draft him in the second round. So it's the the spread of opinions on Jalen Milroe is all over the place. Let's just say hypothetically the Jets are not high on him. In that case, you just take best player available, in my opinion, which would be Mason Graham out of Michigan. Pair him next to Quinn Williams because the Jets defense was not looking so hot the second half of the season. They had a litany of injuries all over the place, but give me Mason Graham next to Quinn Williams. The Panthers. I have said it over and over and over and over and over. Please give Bryce Young a bona fide number one receiver. He cannot throw to 36-year-old Adam Thielen forever. 36-year-old Adam Thielen is really good. Don't get me mistaken. I watched a lot of Panthers games. Adam Thielen's that guy, but he's getting up there in age and he's not just he doesn't have like the body type you need for a number one receiver. So my opinion here, McMillan is the best pick, or none. However, I have seen it's like every mock draft you look at now, it's like, well, Panthers take Abdul Carter. So I don't think it's the right move, but they need some type of players. I mean, outside of J.C. Horn, brother, what do they have on defense? It's not good. The Saints at number 9. Yeah, the Saints are in no man's land. Honestly, if you ask me what team is in just the worst position in the NFL, I'd say it's probably the Saints because there's a difference between teams like the Steelers, right, who are treading water every year. They can't win playoff games, but they're at least year good. Like the Saints would kill to be where the Steelers are right now. They can't make the playoffs, and they're never high enough to get a good quarterback. So they have just been scampering since Drew Brees retired. What do they do here? I mean, if you look at their wide receiver core at the end of last season, I don't think any of them were on the roster to start the year. It was like Marquez Valdez Scantling, Pettis, Kevin Austin. It's like all their receivers got hurt last year. And hopefully, let's say they draft a guy like Tedero McMillan. Then you have McMillan. Um, Hopefully Chris Olave can come back healthy. And Rashid Shaheed, healthy Alvin Kamara. If everybody can just stay healthy on the Saints for 1 year and you draft McMillan, then we can start talking about, okay, maybe the Saints can actually do something for once. The Bears at number 10, it has to be offensive line. I will not consider anything besides offensive line for the Bears during this cycle. Give me Kelvin Banks out of Texas. Okay, I don't know what's going on here. Kelvin Banks draft, please. What's going on? There we go. Kelvin Banks to the Bears. They need desperate help on the offensive line. And I'm going to go in the same area for the 49ers here. Protect Brock Purdy. Get this offense back on track. It was a suspiciously terrible season for the Niners this year. Draft an offensive lineman. Hopefully that changes. Josh Simmons, by the way, is who I'm going with there. I don't know if I mentioned that or not. Cowboys at 12. Yeah, Cowboys, they're definitely a team where I could see them going in a lot of different directions here. I don't think Ashton Jeanty's falling to them at number 12. If he does, then that would be the pick for me. If he doesn't, well, you could go edge rusher. You could address the offensive line because it's not very good. Or you could go wide receiver. I think I'm going to go wide receiver. I like what Jalen Tolbert did this year, but outside of CD Lamb and Jalen Tolbert, you got kick return specialty guy, trick gadget guy, Keontae Turpin. You got 32, 33-year-old Brandon Cooks, who just had a really bad year. You don't have a lot. And when CD was out, they had next to nothing. So give me Luther Burden out of Missouri. Take some pressure off of CD Lamb. Let him play more freely and you have a guy who can really attack the defense when they give extra attention to CD. Dolphins at 13. A lot of Dolphins fans are probably going to want to address the offensive line here, and I don't blame you. That's probably what I'm going to do in future mock drafts. But in this particular scenario, I wouldn't think about what happens when Javon Holland, the Dolphin safety, leaves in free agency. You got to replace Javon Holland somehow, and look who's sitting right there at the top of the draft, Malachi Starks out of Georgia, the best safety in the entire class to replace your free agent safety. That kind of seems like a no-brainer for me. So give me Malachi Starks at 13 to the Dolphins. Colts at 14. This is pretty simple for me. You either draft it. There's two schools of thought here. Do you improve the defense, which was terrible at times last year, and go DB Benjamin Morrison? Or do you try and make Anthony Richardson's life as easy as possible because you need him to work or else everybody's getting fired. And if that's the case, you go tight end. I'm going to go tight end in this particular draft. Give me Tyler Warren out of Penn State, the best tight end in the class, bar none. I don't care how good of a receiver you think Colston Loveland is. Tyler Warren's a better receiver, and he's just more versatile. So give me Tyler Warren out of Penn State for the Colts at 14. Falcons at 15. I am not going to consider anything besides edge rusher, receiver. I don't even understand that they had three good receivers this year, plus tight end. So I don't understand receiver there. But Nick Scorton, actually, was Darnell Mooney signed a 3-year deal. So yeah, they have no need for receiver. Nick Scorton, I mean, we've talked about this at length. Defensive line is probably the strength of this draft. So take your pick in terms of who you want. I'll go with they really need a pass rush specialist here, so I don't know if Nick Scorton's the guy necessarily, but I want a guy who's more of a fin. I don't want really a developmental piece. Give me James Pierce I'm high on James Pierce. Give me James Pierce out of Tennessee. Then pretty much because if you draft an edge rusher this year, remember Braylon Trice got hurt. He pretty much did not play last season. So the Falcons, if they draft one first round, they'll have two high-end edge rushers coming in fresh next season, both pretty much rookies. So they will have a lot of potential to improve that pass rush next year if they draft one in the first round. Cardinals at 16. For me, it's going to be D line. I understand the arguments for offensive linemen, but I feel like their D line is just so weak and they don't have guys with any upside, honestly. So I want an edge rusher for the Cardinals. Give me Nick Scorton out of A&M, possibly just the best defensive lineman in the class, depending on who you ask, maybe besides Abdul Carter. Um, Bengals at 17 here. This is pretty easy for me. Listen, from what I have heard, I am under the assumption that the Bengals are going to have to pay Trey Hendrickson or T. Higgins. I don't care how good you think T. Higgins is. Trey Hendrickson has 35 sacks over the last 2 years. I would it's not even a decision in my mind. You pay the guy with 35 sacks over the last 2 years instead of your second string, well, not second string, but your second best wide receiver. It is just a non-conversation for me. Well, do they pay Trey Hendrickson? Do they pay T. Higgins? Pay Trey Hendrickson. If they pick T. Higgins over Trey Hendrickson, that would just be, I don't even want to fathom that. So let's assume T. Higgins leaves via free agency. Then Emeka Egbuka is the move. Keep him in state. He's playing very well right now in the college football playoff. You use him. I mean, he could just step in day one, I think, and be a very productive guy. And on top of that, you could go and look to add a guy like Tyler Boyd. And I think Tyler Boyd returning to the Bengals is a massive move for them because he was terrible. Well, the Titans were terrible. He did not have a good year, and you would sign him for like literally pennies on the dollar. So, yeah, that I think the Bengals are going to have a really. I think their receiving core might actually be better next year. Like, let's just say hypothetically, Jamar Chase, Emeka Egbuka, Tyler Boyd, Yoshi Bosch, plus Mike Gesicki. That's a really good wide receiver core without T. Higgins. So, yeah, I'm not worried about that if I'm the Bengals. Seahawks at 18. It's offensive line. I would really, really love Jalen Walker to be a Seahawk. Believe me, I would. But we just need help. We might have the worst guard positions in the National Football League, and our better one is leaving in free agency. So let's see. Let's look at the options here. I'm looking for a tackle, preferably, who could start his career at guard and be a really good guard. When I think about that, Wyatt Milam makes the most sense for me out of West Virginia. Like I said, start him at guard. If he ends up being the best tackle or the best option at right tackle for us, move him to right tackle, put somebody else at guard. But brother, please give the Seahawks offensive line help. Next up, we got the Broncos at 19 here. This is pretty simple for me. I like their receiving core, honestly. I mean, you got Marvin Mims, you got Troy Franklin. Courtland Sutton obviously is the established vet, the wide receiver one. They just don't have tight end. I mean, the Greg Dulcich pick from a couple years ago completely failed, so they have no options at tight end. Give me Colston Loveland out of Michigan. Give Bo Nix another weapon to throw to. The defense was already really good this year, so I think tight end is the most obvious pick for the Broncos here. Buccaneers at 20. It's either corner or edge rusher here. I like what their pass rush did this season for the most part. So give me Benjamin Morrison sitting right there at number 20. Feels like a perfect fit. Steelers at 21. This has to be receiver, honestly. I mean, they could use some help in the secondary, but their offense was just anemic at times this season. Um, they like big body, physical, outside receivers. I've already mentioned the Restrepo pick for them a lot of times this year because I feel like he would have really helped them attack the middle of the field, which I think they need to do. So I'm high on Restrepo. But the guy, just based off what they like in receivers, Trey Harris out of Ole Miss, he, in my opinion, when he was healthy, he was the best receiver in college football last year. Like he had like 900 yards the first 4 games. Then he got hurt, and I wholeheartedly believe he would have won the Blitnikoff if he was healthy. I mean, he was putting up monster numbers for Ole Miss, but yeah, when he's out there, he is a freak. And the Steelers, I think, just based off what they like to draft, the George Pickens types of guys, he makes the most sense for them. Rams at 22. Oh man, honestly, Rams are a team. Genuinely, the Rams could do anything here. I'm gonna hypothetically say that they look to improve the offensive line, try and just keep Stafford upright and around for as long as possible. And if that's the case, give me a guy like Cam Williams out of Texas. Texas offensive line did not play well really in any of their big games, but guys like Cam Williams are the guys you look at for projections and how good they could be down the line. Chargers here. Usually Colson Loveland's available, but he is not right now. I think the Chargers really need to think about what they can do on the defensive line, especially if guys like Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa end up, leaving the door. Then I think it's really important what you do right there. They have a lot of holes, honestly. I mean, they could draft a receiver. Tight end, obviously, is something you might want to look at. Offensive line just played terrible in their playoff game against the Texans. Um, but yeah, I think D line is where I'm going to go in this particular draft. Give me Mykel Williams out of Georgia, possibly the guy with the most upside in the entire class. Freakish athletic traits. Packers at 24. They just lost to the Eagles. Their offense is completely anemic. And I think receiver is the move. Usually, I would not have thought of receiver as a big need, but if you've been paying attention to the Packers lately, they lost their top 3 receivers by the end of the Eagles game. They were playing with all backups in there. Christian Watson tore his ACL just a couple weeks ago. So that's unfortunate. But I mean, he's definitely going to miss a start next season. I mean, there's no question about it. The question is how much time he's going to miss. I would say at least the first half. Probably, I hope not, but it's just the most likely scenario. So if that's the case, you're going to be down one receiver for the start of next year. Romeo Doubs suffered what looked like to be a pretty serious concussion. I don't know what is going to be the case with him, but they really just need a number one receiver. I mean, they don't have a single guy who's, 1,000-yard guy. They spread it around really well, but I would like for the Packers to try and get a number one receiver for Jordan Love. And if that's the case, I think the guy with the most potential for a number one receiver would be a guy like Alec Alminer, just because of his build and his potential as an outside, threat. Um, but yeah, I think he could just be the Christian Watson replacement because Watson next year will be on the final year of his rookie deal, and if he misses half the year, I mean, I don't really see the point of bringing him back. So it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. Texans, I don't know why receiver is a need for them. It's going to be offensive line. The offensive line played really bad this season. That's kind of, I mean, listen, CJ Stroud, he's took a step back for sure, but the offensive line leaves a lot to be desired. So take a look around. I think the interior is what needs to improve the most. I think a guy like Ariante Ursary, he projects more as a tackle, but he is a guy who I think you could play inside right away, or just start him at right tackle and move a guy like Titus Howard inside. So it gives you more options if the Texans for that old line. Commanders at 26. They just beat the Buccaneers. I think it was probably the best playoff game so far, at least. It was really exciting. Came down to the wire. There's a lot of things the Commanders could do, man. I really just think corner though, and it's not because Lattimore got cooked by Mike Evans. I mean, it's just the guys outside. It's like they didn't have any other options. If it wasn't Lattimore, they had. I mean, Mikey Sanders still he's a slot guy. They already cut Emmanuel Forbes. He was a generational bust. Benjamin St-Juste is a war criminal, according to most Commanders fans. So they need help desperately on that boundary. So there's a lot. Honestly, I feel like this cornerback class, in terms of guys who have boosted their stock in season, at first it was just Siobhan Revel, Will Johnson, Benjamin Morrison, Travis Hunter, depending on how you classify him. But Jahdae Barron and Trey Amos have both played their way into the first round, in my opinion. So give me Jahdae Barron I believe he was a Thorpe Award winner, had a great season for Texas. I think he could play outside for the Commanders. Ravens at 27. Again, and all these good teams, they don't really have any massive holes. That's why they're so good. They just have a lot of things they could do. Honestly, man, I feel like Rashad Bateman, he is a free agent. He's having a career year, but I'm always wary of guys who have three not good seasons and then play good, all of a sudden in their contract year. Because I mean, you have three. I mean, it's like, do you judge a guy just entirely based off what have you done for me lately, or do you judge a guy based off, well, you weren't that good for 3 years, but all of a sudden in a contract year, you're playing really well. So it's tough to judge those. I would like for them to bring Rashad Bateman back, but I also would like for Lamar to have another option at receiver. So if that's the case, people are really high on Savion Williams out of TCU, and don't get me wrong, he's had some good games. Um, you should look at it overall. I mean, 600 yards on 60 catches, six touchdowns. I believe it's more because of his build. Where do you look at the first look here? Yeah, 6'5" to 25. He kind of just has a unique size, speed combo at the receiver position. Um, it's a lot of options here. Isaiah Bond has understandably just plummeted down draft boards. It's easy to see why he has not been that good at Texas. Receiver, I don't know. I don't know if any. I feel like it would be a reach if you take any of these guys at this point in time. Just give me the guy. I'm the highest on Restrepo. I feel like Restrepo is extremely underrated. I think he's going to be a beast at the next level. So give me Restrepo to the Ravens at 27. Vikings at 28 here. I think corner's probably the just consistently when I think about the Vikings, I think they need help at cornerback. Stephon Gilmore is a 1 year rental. Obviously, I've talked about it at length. The tragedy that took place with Kyrie Jackson, their previous year's pick at corner, so they need more options there. Give me Trey Amos out of Ole Miss, a guy who's boosted his stock tremendously based off how he played last year. The Bills. I don't know if I'd call receiver a need, especially if they bring back Amari Cooper. Corner, I can understand. Yeah, give me Jalen Walker. Give me Jalen Walker to boost their pass rush capabilities, as well as a guy who is capable of dropping back and covering tight ends and running backs out of the backfield. Eagles at 30. Oh, man. You know, maybe edge rusher is just the move for the Eagles. Josh Sweat's getting up there. No longer have Brandon Graham, I don't think. Yeah, let me give Nolan Smith though is breaking out, thankfully for them. So, and then also Bryce Huff, who knows what's going on with him? Who's a good pass rush option for the Eagles? I think Prince Allen out of Ole Miss really kind of showcased that he could thrive in multiple different systems. So I think he's a guy who'll go at the end of the first round or the top of the second round. Chiefs at 31. You know, tackle certainly you could make the case for the Chiefs, but corner as well for me. Yeah, I'm gonna let them take a shot, man. Outside of Trent McDuffie, I don't love what they got there. Take a shot on a guy who has possibly the highest upside of any corner in the class. Chavon Revel suffered a season-ending ACL injury, should be ready to go by training camp and all that. But I mean, yeah, if you don't know about Chavon Revel, he has some freakish athletic and just size traits. Lions at 32 here. For me, they need help or they just need help in their pass rush in general. Zadarius Smith has been good for them since they made the move for him. I don't know if he's in their long-term future. Obviously, you hope Hutchinson can come back and be 100% of his former self, but does not hurt to add a guy. Is there a more Dan Campbell type player than Jack Sawyer in this draft class? That just feels like a match made in heaven. Jack Sawyer to the Lions at the end of the first round, and let's take a look at the whole thing. It's exciting, man. It is exciting to see, now that we know for sure what the order is, I'm interested to see because I think the teams who really have the most, like, oh man, what do they do? It's the Giants, it's the Raiders, uh, the Panthers, the Saints. I think the Cowboys, obviously, the Colts, Bengals, definitely. There's a lot of teams, man, where it's like every single draft, there's going to be different options for them each time. But That is going to be it for this video, man. Please leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you are new, and I'll see all of you on the next one. Peace.